All right. So with my social media, I've only ever got one accurate social media, and I never allow friends or followers on it because it's my entire life and it's extremely in detail. For an example, I've got, where I lived. It's got, I've got a folder that's just specifically to, documents for proof, things like this. Go and have a look because I've uploaded. So anyone that wants to question and keep going down the path of defamation of character and slander with me like they have. I'm talking about government fucking departments even in the last 9 years since 2015. So I've got everything on there, including cars I've had, stuff to do with work, when I was working for Steve Hatch Dimitri. You should be on there. I've got photos of my dad when he was in his 40s. So we've got very similar hair, Mark Fleming and myself, which I hope I don't end up having all the health problems Dad has. But like I look very similar to my father, Mark Ian Fleming. Although I'm chunkier, he was always thin. My dad was always a lot thinner than I was. I'm more chunky. I've got everything to do with the Fleming side, my father's side, everything to do with my mother's side, the Purdy side, because all this was brought up, including in two countries. Some idiots had information related to my stepfather's family, the Rackleys, and tagged it with me. It's like, nothing to do with me. That's my stepfather's family. Yeah. So this bullshit went on. I've got stuff to do with Star Casino when I was working there as a VIP host. I've had people go, oh, he wasn't a VIP host. I'm like, yeah, I was. So we all started out as hosts, but when I started out as a host, Sarah and Mignoni started combining. So it used to be floor host, slot host, desk host, Endeavour Room host, lounge host, and so forth. But then early 2000s they combined them all, so you would start your shift in, like with Jason Hall as one of the supervisors might be there, and it'll be like, okay, you're rostered on to do Oasis lounge from this time to this time, then you've got to do pits from this time to this time, you need to cover reception breaks in Endeavour Room, and you can finish your shift at Star Lounge or Lagoon Desk, like things like this. So you'd go in and you have all your roster, where you're going to be at what time, where you got to change to during a 10-hour shift. So you wouldn't be in the one spot for 10 hours. And I never wanted to do the floor in the Endeavour Room, so I still had to do Endeavour Room, so I used to do Endeavour Room reception, just to cover the breaks in Endeavour Room reception, because I liked doing Oasis, Star Lounge, the pits, and Lagoon Host Desk. And then I used to go at the back as soon as my shift was going to finish, around, say I was finished at 2 a.m, I'll start my emails about midnight. Emails and memos. I've kept everything. So I've kept everything to back me up. And here's the thing. When I worked for Star Casino back in those days, it was so cutthroat because everybody was after the same job if there was a promotion. So you would never get any good, recommendations from anyone. You had to cover yourself. I've kept every document. Well, not every document, but majority of every document. I've kept emails I've sent. I've kept responses to those emails from other co-workers to prove my work and my teamwork. I've kept things what patrons sent in to Saro about me. So patrons wrote letters into Saro, my boss, Saro Mignoni, and he's responded to those letters. I've kept those. So when the casino if they want to discredit me, it's like, well, here's all the paperwork that back what I'm saying to be true. How with my work, I can back it up. I've kept memos that I've sent off. I kept OH&S stuff that I've sent off, like everything. Emails and so forth. I kept an email to Peggy and Dolores, which had a good response back through Sarah Mignoni, and so forth, to always cover myself, because I was a VIP host working to go towards an executive host. And back in 2002, with Tony Pacello, I actually did so he's an executive host, and it was meant to be two executive hosts work on one of the cruises. And instead, he asked me if I would go along for it. So I did all the paperwork, which I did what an executive host would do, but I was only a VIP host. So VIP host is here, and executive host is up higher than a VIP host. Tony Pacello asked me to do executive host work in 2002. So that's how long ago I was working towards executive host, which is a lot more money. And I've got those documents. So I've actually kept that to back me up. I've also kept stuff to do with work when I've had side jobs. So I've got everything to back me up. All I needed was a good solicitor. Whoops. I left him in too long. All I needed was a good solicitor to go, okay, you're lying about him. This is defamation. I've kept everything. It's the other thing. I had people look at what I had. For an example, My white Cavalli jacket. Expensive white Cavalli jacket. Yeah, it was. It was really expensive. Brought it from Queen Victoria building. But I purchased it back when I was a VIP host on $47,730 a year, which doesn't seem a lot of money now. But if you go 20 years ago, I was on almost $50,000 a year 20 years ago. Yeah, I was. Then I had two side jobs because I actually was working for Jeff, this tough and glass guy who actually ran the business out of his parents' place in Hunters Hill. I got on that connection through my partner at the time, John Cabino. And I used to do my days off with him and even before work with him. Shifted, and that was cash in hand, $20 to $25 an hour, depending what day I was doing with Jeff. I also did maintenance as well. These weren't careers. These were just side jobs to get extra money. So, I worked my ass off to have every single savings I had, assets, belongings, car, jewelry, because all this was brought up. All my expensive jewelry, designer label clothing, Versace shirt. I love this. The Versace shirt that you can see in a photo of me sitting next to my grandmother in April 2008, my expensive Cavalli jacket and my Dolce & Gabbana pants. You can see in a photo there in April 2008 because I already had these items before I was mugged and robbed November 30th, 2007. I can show you the jewelry that was stolen off my neck when I was mugged November 30th, 2007, the 3 chains. They're in photos. I can show you every item. I can also show you that in other photos, I had everyday jewelry and going out jewelry and so forth. It's all through photos. It's even on videos in 2006 and 2007. So I can back myself up. Yet I've continuously been gaslighted now for 9 years since 2015. Gaslighted. It's like, but I've had idiots of even government departments bring up bullshit. And I'm like, but that makes no sense considering you're making out that I've only just acquired this recently, except there's a photo of me in my 20s wearing the same object. The same as my massive big lapis lazuli ring. That ring used to have a red stone in it back in my 20s. And that was around, when was it? 2006. I lost the redstone out of it. So this is how long I've had the ring for. Because I had it back when I was with John Cabino. And mum's cousin's daughter's husband's cousin. There you go. Still in the family. So mum's cousin, Sharon Newcomb, her daughter, Cherie. Cherie married a Murphy. Her husband, I can't think of his name. His cousin, which is Denny Murphy, who has Denny's Designer Jewelers, found, and I'm talking about now, 15 odd years ago. When was it? Must have been 2009, around about that time. Found a piece of lapis lazuli, good chunk to put in, and mum got this stone done for my birthday for me. So a big blue ring that I wear. But I've had that since my 20s. So this was even brought up. It's like, so you're talking about stuff that I've had before I was mugged. Basically, money, car, assets, investment property like 16 Scott Road in Tamworth that I had rented out the entire time. I sold that in 2008. So all this bullshit that these government departments and so forth have brought up in 2 countries, mind you, and then labelled me. And it's like, this is crap. I already had all these. And then I had cousins on my dad's side open their fucking mouth. It's like, you did not know me before I was mugged. We really only reconnected at Nan's funeral. So Ruby Fleming, my grandmother, passed away in October 2007. I was mugged in November 2007. So I'm like, who the fuck are you to speak for me? If anything, any information needs to be said, it can come from me, thanks. I'm not being derogatory to my cousins by saying this. I'll meet up with them, have coffee and so forth. But what do they know except for what my ex-partner, who I only met after I was mugged, because I never knew him before I was mugged. I met him a year after I was mugged. Giovanni Consalvo, or Jonathan Craig, or Gio from Adelaide. What he told us. Yeah, and that's the thing. I was never really close to any side of my family anyway. I was only ever close to Nan Lola, Pop Reg, and Big Nan Mary, which is my great grandmother who's lived there from Leichhardt, and her brother, which I call Uncle Fred, but it's Leo Patrick Sayer. And again, Leo's from Bellevue Hill. So is my Nan Lola's cousin Gary Williams, and Gary Williams' father, which is Tommy Williams, and his grandmother, which is Annie Williams, and Gary got left Annie Williams' house, which is where my Nana Lola used to travel from the tram from Leichhardt to go and visit her grandmother. So yeah. Again, all this stuff's true, but I'm the one getting lied about for 9 years. And the same thing with Gio. He said he was a carer. I'm like, can you stop telling people you're a carer when you're not? And he's like, well, that's just for him. I was like, okay, but that's affecting my life because I'm trying to get listened to when there's false information that was being said, and I'm trying to have it corrected. Especially when I went back after I was mugged after work and I went back to my studies, and I had already studied design back in 1997. And that's the thing. When I was off work, that was nothing to do with me. That was my employer that did that. I've said this several times. My employer did that. They're like, oh, well, you're mugged after work. And here's the thing. A good solicitor would have actually been able to finalise this for me. So I get mugged after work, and the first thing they said was, no, you've got to be off work for 2 years. Okay, then we're going to look into this. Well, they started merging the departments. So instead of being VIP services, it went from VIP services under marketing and guest relations, which is what I was, to being under electronic gaming. So they merged it into electronic gaming, which meant they could cut staff and offer people redundancy, and they did. Renato Santos, who's one of the staff members I worked with, was offered redundancy, and he took it. You'd be mad. And I was there for 10 years, which means they would have had to have offered me redundancy, and I would have taken it. Of course, it's a lot of money. So to prevent offering me redundancy, they wouldn't give me my job back. They're like, no, we're going to keep you off work, but what we're going to do is give you part salary payment for 10 years to give you time to rest and recover. This is what was said. And at the end of the 10 years, you can negotiate your job back. That meant they had minimal payment with anything to pay me. Did you see one good solicitor even back me up? Because that's the actual truth. It was my employer who said that. That's what they were going to do. Okay? My employer, Star Casino. They're the ones that said, no, we're going to do this. Because otherwise, if they said you can come back now, they would have had to have offered me redundancy. And that's a shitload of money for 10 years and almost $50,000 a year. That's the thing. And I said this. So they opted to part salary payment, which is next to nothing, for 10 years. They went with that process. Okay? So I'm not going to stand back and be lied about. Then I was accused of, he wasted all his money. It's like, no, I didn't. Didn't waste my money on anything because I already owned everything before I was mugged. My sports cars, I had huge savings. Already had this. I can prove it. There's all my freaking bank statements. There's when I sold the property, 16 Scott Road. There's the house I was buying in 52 Lantana Drive in Ettalong Beach, which was in 2007, just before I was mugged. There's where they accepted my deposit, and there's where I've had the deposit returned to me because I was mugged. I had to pull out of buying the house. Seriously, I'm not going to stand back and be lied about. I'll keep fighting. I don't care. I'm not going to let any government department, even fucking the US cunts, immigration fucking cunts, lie about me. I don't give a shit. You want to lie about me and destroy me, I'll fucking destroy it for everyone else. You want to, when Republicans want to shut down the diversity visa, the DV visa, which I actually went through that process. Good, I'll give them a good reason to shut it down. You want to fucking destroy everything I've worked hard for because you've defamed me and discriminated against me for 9 years? Get fucked. I went through fucking hell. Nothing amounts to the hell I've gone through in the last 9 years, I can tell you that now. Nothing in my past would amount to the hell I was put through even in the last 2 years. Nothing. I can back up every single thing I fucking said. There is photos of almost every item. Like, there's a video where we used my place as a set for a film that Jeremy Patterson, my neighbour who lived upstairs in apartment 2. Oh, there's another thing. I'm number 1, 392 Cleveland Street. Jeremy Patterson, he was number 2, 392 Cleveland Street. He went through the green card process. He's the one who told me about the diversity visa, the DV one, back in 2006 when we were preparing for the film, because that's what he's doing the film for. And he told me, because he's like, ever since I came back from America in 2001, January and February 2001, he's like, you always talk about getting a green card, do it this way. He went through it. It was Jeremy Patterson who told me, so my neighbour upstairs. Anyway, we did the film in my place, which you can see a lot of my belongings in Surrey Hills then, and you can see it comes into the bedroom, one of the scenes, and it goes around the corner. You can see all my suit jackets hanging up in the bags. I had so many suit jackets and suits and designer labels and so forth. A lot of them I even had back even in 99. 2000. Actually, you can see me in 2001 wearing Dolce & Gabbana shirts in when I'm overseas in America then. January and February, because I always had good jobs. Like, seriously, whether it was cash in hand jobs or not, I always had good jobs, paid well. So separate to that, going back to what I was saying, yeah, Jeremy Patterson, it was his apartment where he moved out of and left his girlfriend and his girlfriend's brother, was a teenager, living there, and it was his girlfriend's brother. So I can't think of her name. Bobby May, I think. Bobby and Annie May, something like that. Bobby May set fire to his bedroom. I was joking around, said, oh, maybe, because they were from India, I said, oh, maybe he was trying to cook in his bedroom and set fire to it. I kept saying to Giovanni, stop telling people we're the ones that had the house fire. It's the other thing. I'm like, we never had a house fire. So this all went through social media, and idiots were like, oh, they set fire to his house. I'm like, no, my neighbours. It was a house divided into 2 units. I was on the bottom floor. The upstairs unit had a house fire, not us. Their house fire affected neighbouring properties, and I was one of the neighbouring properties. Like, be more specific. I'm very specific. It's like, no, I get right down to timelines and dates and very specific. But when you've got dickheads getting wrong information, like I had people think it was our house fire. And I'm like, we never had a house fire. And Giovanni was doing this whole big thing. When we had the house fire, I'm like, can you shut up? We never had a fucking house fire. We got affected by our neighbour's house fire. That's 2 different things. Because by you saying to people, this is what I used to say to Giovanni all the time, he used to get the shits with me. I'm like, no, you're an idiot. By you saying when we had the house fire, people think we had the house fire. We didn't have a house fire. Our neighbours had a house fire, and their house fire affected our property. Like, he doesn't get it. It's like, when you say things incorrectly, that starts whispers and things get wrong. Like, things go, well, here's a story, next man's blown way out of proportion. I'm like, this is bullshit. And then here was the other thing of why we're staying in the place after the house fire. It's like, of course I'm staying in the place after the house fire to go get my belongings out, thanks. What I could get out of my place, which was, my expensive furniture and so forth, there was only really one room that we couldn't save. The rest I could save. And in that one room had a fantastic sofa. That was my grandparents, the Fleming side, that I loved. It was my Stanley Fleming, my grandfather's. It was a round sofa with a corner bar. And things like my surround sound system, my turntable got wet. And so forth. So I lost a lot of my surround sound system and a lot of other items and so forth in that TV and things like that. So a lot of electrical stuff was lost, and a whole front lounge room was lost. But I was managed to salvage a lot. I mean, there was still a lot lost, but it was a massive house full of antiques. And I was, managed to salvage a lot with the help from neighbours and Rainey Francis and her husband, Richard Francis, which are great during that time. Rainey, which they had the coffee shop across the road, which was Twig Cafe. No, I would have been lost. And I'll still say this, even though I don't keep in touch with Rainey as much as I should. But we barely, weren't that great close friends. And then she came over. I'm like, I was just, like, seriously, people would see me because everyone in the neighbourhood in Surrey Hills knew my place. Like, even before I'd ever met Gio, and they knew what I had in my place. Even the girls, the prostitutes down the road, because the brothel just down the road from where I live. And they all come running as well, and I was just devastated. Hillary and Kim, who lived on the corner of Marlborough Street and Goodlet Lane, the boys in Goodlet Lane, Grant and his partner Brian, Jeffrey, who lived across, or Jeff, was it Jeff? Joseph, who lived. I used to keep my sports car out the front of his place and wash it all the time in my short footy shorts. So all the people from there, I'm talking about, I've known since my 20s. I was in the area there at Surrey Hills. I lived in Surrey Hills longer than I've lived anywhere else in my entire life. I've lived in Surrey Hills. Haven't lived anywhere else longer than that, I think, in my entire life. In Surrey Hills. So, yeah, it was known all around there. Peter and Pauline, who were on the opposite side. The used to be like a pink house there in the corner of, opposite to Hillary and Kim on the corner of Marlborough Street and Goodlet Lane. They knew. So when Rainey Francis came over, I was like, I had no idea. She's like, okay, what you got to do is you're going to have to get out, just get what you can salvage of your belongings. And everybody in the neighbourhood, like Richard came over, Rainey came over, everyone was just helping packing and getting my stuff out. The neighbours next door were great. I mean, some stuff was just like gone. People were looting. Not people that were helping, but it was all open to the public. But got most of it out. put it in storage. Then while I was looking for a new apartment, I went up to my nan's house, which ended up being our family's holiday house. So my nan's house in Long Beach, and we're just, unwinding first. And then, started looking to move back into the city, basically. But I can't believe that all this stuff got twisted around. And it did. Everything's been twisted around for 9 years. I'm like, you're the ones causing trouble in my life. You're the one costing me damage. You've even denied me the truth of my studies in design. Like, I got a credit in design a wearable object. I could have gone further with that, but you've stopped me. Like, since 2015, it's like, I'm not stopping myself. You're stopping me. Hang on, Buff. My poor dog needs to be lifted up. It was called, like, I was accused of doing insurance fraud or some other bullshit. And I'm like, are you fucking lying about, like, and the same arseholes that wanted to actually cause, slander in America was just huge. I'm like thinking, wow, America has laws against slander and defamation, and you really want to go down the path of slandering me? It cost me. I was like, that's it. And then I spoke to an attorney in Hartford, Connecticut, which is Tony Adler, who said, it's coming from Australia. We don't have jurisdiction to correct the information in Australia. You're going to have to go back to Australia and get a solicitor there. Well, whatever this costs me, someone's paying for it because I'm sick and tired of this shit. I've gone through enough in my life, come out of that, to be put through hell since 2015. Even when I'm trying to return back to Star Casino, it's like, okay, I've gone for recovery. I can maintain the migraines. What was initially thought that, so when I first was mugged, the lights and so forth, well, man, my fucking left eye was damaged. So what, I needed that to sort of subside and heal for a while before, anything. And then in 2010, I ended up getting light sensitive from that was the spinal meningitis. It ended up affecting, I ended up getting really badly light sensitive where couldn't handle sunlight or anything. But that was because my body overheated for so long with meningitis. That's on record. Some photosynthesis or whatever, it was from meningitis, the spinal meningitis. So I went through fucking hell. But the worst thing I've ever gone through in my entire life was the last 9 years. Since 2015, it's like, okay. Had some idiot go, you need counselling to deal with being mugged after work. I'm like, no, I don't. That was years ago. That was November 30th, 2007. I've got no issues surrounding that. I was meant to return to work back in 2017 to stop me, so I went to America and worked at the casino there, which I did. I worked for Mohegan Sun. There was no issues. You're making up stories. You're making up issues. All it was me maintaining physical health injuries, like the disc. But towards the end, that's all it was. It was like, what are you left with? Disc damage, eye damage, chronic migraines, back damage, knee damage, and so forth. Even that gets disputed, because sometimes I need a walking cane. Yeah, sometimes I do need a fucking walking cane. Other times I'm fit as a fiddle and it's fine. Or, I take my back medication, have to sleep wipes me out for 10 hours. Sure, like you fucking morons, I'll go get an injection in my back. But yeah, sometimes I do need my fucking walking cane. And the thing is with that, no one would ever have known, because I kept that a secret. I kept it a secret because I didn't want anybody to know. And I used to use a walking cane throughout the house all the time since I was mugged, and no one ever knew until I started getting spied upon. No one fucking knew. I've been using a cane since 2007 and I can back it up. There's even photos of me with it and I just brush it off as, it's part of the outfit. But it's not. It's because my hip's so far out. Mind you, there is CT scans that show the damage to the hip. There are CT scans done in 2008 that show the damage to the hip back then when it was first badly damaged. And these fuckwits thought they could lie about me in the last 9 years. I'm like, bullshit. I went through too much, and now you've damaged my assets, belongings, savings, 2 countries, and my credibility. Is like, one of them I'm getting back, and it's my credibility first. And you want to open your mouth up and lie about me, then you can do something about reimbursing me the damage that you've just cost me for 9 fucking years, I can tell you now, because I won't back down. There is no way in hell I will back down. I worked too hard to have what I had. I went through too much in my life, went through too much damage after I was mugged in 2007, then what I went through in 2010 to let some scummy pieces of shit people lie about me. Okay? And that's it. It's like, no. And you know what? These fuckwits that they want to have a good hard look at their self and their little criminal fucking behaviour. because I won't back down. I went through what I went through. And the biggest thing as well, the most recovery I went through was after I was mugged, November 30th, 2007, that first year. That first year was the biggest recovery I'd ever went through. And I was with my partner, John Cabino, in that first year. John. This is before I'd ever met Gio. John never took any money for a carer. I was with him. I met Giovanni Craig Consalvo for the first time in August 2008. So basically I'm at the end of the biggest part of recovery after I was mugged. And I didn't start affiliating with Giovanni until after September 2008. And then the first time we really sort of socialized was in December 2008. So we're talking about a good year after I was mugged. And then suddenly in 2009, he's off taking carer's allowance. The guy was a scumbag living in a fucking share house with nothing when I met him. And that's the fucking truth. He moved into my place with my assets, belongings, savings, and then started this shit in my life. And I won't back down. I won't back down from being spied upon, from my life being monitored, surveillanced, lied about, defamed. Not just defamation, criminal defamation, and discrimination. And I won't. So I don't care if I've got to spend every single day ringing a solicitor until I annoy the fucking shit out of all these law companies and say, no, that's it. This went on in 2 fucking countries. It's turned me off immigration like you wouldn't believe. Yeah, and I'm not mentally fucking retarded. How fucking defaming is that? You've gone through physical health injuries and chronic illness, and then some bastard was twisting this shit around. Yeah, I'll admit, when I was being a smart ass, sure. You want to come at me with a stupid question, I'm going to come back at you with a stupid answer. But to put someone through that like I was put through for the last 9 years, get fucked. That is against humanity.